Humans are really good at solving problems, but they also type things wrong. They do bad math. They may make something incorrect. Robots aren't coming for your jobs. They're coming for theirs. We must stop doing the work of robots. We did it in the auto industry in the 80s, and look what happened. The quality of the vehicles, the life of the vehicles, because of automation. It didn't destroy humanity, it enhanced humanity. It scaled what humans were doing and then took out the errors that humans were making from the auto manufacturing.
All right, I'm here with my new buddy, Mateo Stroll. Mateo, it is fascinating to have you here. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. But the first question I got to ask you is, what got you interested in the intersection of humanity and technology?
Well, I think anybody who came up, I may not look at but I'll be in my mid 50s here soon. I don't get the free lunch at Denny's yet, but or the discounted lunch at Denny's yet, but it's coming.
Congrats.
It is coming. The time when if you were a kid in the 70s, we got video games like really early on, handheld ones too,
Yep.
that were really great. So I think that is kind of what started that thing where we were starting to see images of computers and they were really starting to become prevalent in the movies, where the computers were something attainable, something you could control with your hands, not room-sized devices in a sci-fi episode.
See, I think that's fascinating to know that this comes back to your childhood experience of like seeing how the world existed, growing up in an environment where, we played outside, right? Like
Right,
we
right.
touched
We were
grass
forced
constantly.
outside.
Yeah, exactly. It was like don't come home until the sun sets kind
That's
of
correct.
aspect.
Exactly.
Um, and then on the other side of it, it's like we now exist in a world where the stuff that we imagined as children, where it's super prevalent. So how is that impacting your work today, your life today?
Well, I've always been a little bit of a hustler where if there was a capability or something I was capable of, I wanted to monetize that. But also in doing that, it's also to enable service, right? So when I
Okay.
talk about video games, uh, at the same time in media and television, we were seeing, the $6 Million Man. We were seeing all these integrations, these synergies of technology on how they can help people. But I knew right away that computers were going to be an acceleration. Computers were going to be an augmentation to what humans can do. Right? They're going to
Yeah.
calculate things faster. They're going to do things faster. And yes, you can play video games on them. But in order to do that, it always starts with the end user. Even the arcade cabinets, when the first arcade cabinets came out, you could make a game, but how are you going to interact with that game? Now, how are you going to interact that game with drunk people in a bar? Right. So when you start to think about the end user, and no greater effect has technology had on humanity than in two major ways. One, healthcare, obviously.
Yeah.
We've got Star Trek like devices now. And then, effectively learning and the speed at which we can learn things, vetted knowledge or unvetted. But let's just think academia. Let's not
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
politics. And just because something is information doesn't mean it's teaching you anything. But how we teach people is much richer now and very one to many versus one to a very small group of people. Think Socratic method, think the classroom. Now, something that was taught can be shared globally instantly or very, very quick.
It's a very interesting point, and I gotta say, I kind of jumped from we went from one to one, the Socratic method, that like question
Hmm.
response kind of pace, but to
Right.
one to many and like the YouTube digest kind of
Right.
experience, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and then additionally, like when we're talking about it, do you feel like we're moving towards a space where we now have like the reflection point? Like I use ChatGPT or Claude, and I kind of have it ask me questions to pull information out. So I'm almost at that Socratic method, but with a artificial being.
So that is fascinating way to look at it. And
Yeah.
my very educated, highly snidey opinion about those wonderfully animated and well scripted human user interfaces to enhance a Google search,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So even though the voices sound incredible and the generative AI aspects that we're getting from make me this wallpaper, or I need a graphic, or I need a resume, right? Uh, as we said, it's flawed because what people don't understand is there's almost 8.5 billion of us. There are nearly 10, not counting IoT. I'm just talking mobile devices, laptops, just general computing devices. We're in the
Yeah,
12, 13 billion unit range right now,
that makes
all
sense.
accessing the internet. So more than 2/3 of our entire population that's an adult age, let's say 13 and above, have access to this internet.
Yeah.
They're contributing to the lowest common denominator responses we're getting out of GPT. So you got to think, even though you're asking this thing and you're having this intimate relationship with your Gemini, or, something not Alexa, not Siri, not,
Yeah, yeah.
not Bixby, right?
We're
Because
talking like
those
the
are,
latest
we're
foundational
talking the
models.
latest,
Yeah.
right? That is about as sexy as we can make it. The real true power of AI, the value of that is the unsexiest, you're never going to hear about it type stuff that's
Yeah.
going to impact you in a deep way for decades to come. And it has nothing to do with anything you're going to see on Bloomberg TV.
Fair point.
Yeah. So, but to answer your question, it was a very political way, me dancing around how I think it kind of sucks for applied practical things, right? It's very difficult to determine the value of me using this and attributing that to a dollar outcome to an executive for my job.
Oh,
So,
100%. Yeah, yeah.
so to bring that back in, let's just bring it in. These are enhancements. These are augmentations. There's really three things that AI can do. It organizes just what we have accessible to the general public right now, right? Even what we're going to pay for a premium for. We're either organizing something, we're scaling something, or we're accelerating something. And almost all of those somethings are human user interactions.
Oh, okay. We're either
So,
okay.
so
So
you
talk
want
about the
some
human.
examples?
Yeah, I want some examples of the human user
Sure.
interactions that are in that space. Yeah.
So the inflection point we're at right now is the same inflection point of that I've been at from a business perspective and the tip of the spear with automating. We call them digital employees. And we did that because we're automating or augmenting an engineering staff to take what can be scripted, to take what can be automated and do that so that not the human can be removed, so that the robots can do what robots are really, really good at, and the humans can go back to problem solving. So when we talk about AI in a generic sense, for anybody who may not be as hyper nerdy or in AI as long as I have since 1996, I started my first consulting gig when I was 14. So I'm coming up on my 40th anniversary for being an IT monkey in August. The real crux of it is if you're not documenting your processes, you can't scale anything. You can't automate anything. So, in this time of change, egocentric profit for profit's sake people, major labels, major brands to startups, are all finding very short gains in AI adoption. They're very shallow, they're very quick, they're not getting a lot of value. They have to say it because the shareholders need them to say it, right? So the
Oh
investors
yeah,
want
yeah.
to be investing in AI. But when we're truly implementing the human user interaction, what are my humans doing? Great. What opportunities are there to automate? Awesome. How long are they spending doing those automations? How many humans do I have doing those automations? Great. There's your value metric. So now you have let's say in the last 90 days, my humans have spent this much time. We automated the process. I have just created that much value by automating that. Now, humans are really good at solving problems, but they also type things wrong. They do bad math. They may make something incorrect. So we can talk about the automation of code maybe next as the next kind of real big value or inflection point. The removal of human errors, another human user interaction via AI.
Okay. So what you're getting at is it's the things that humans are doing today are the things that we can actually hand over to the AI. And it's about us getting out of the way to allow the AI to do what it can do. And like, in some cases, today's use cases can be rather sometimes obvious, rather shallow, rather specific.
Mhm.
Um, but at the same time, like we were talking to somebody who's doing, they've got a ton of document review that they're going after. And that document review is well within the scope of what today's frontier models can do today. And even thinking through if I see item A, it means I need items B, C, and D in this as well. And
Exactly.
so those processes, though, have to be defined first so that you can teach the AI to actually do that process. Where I think you and I probably have the shared experience of a client coming to us and saying, hey, we want to do A, make profit. Well, what's step two? And they're like, AI, right? Like,
Right. AI with business process automation, with all of this other tool stack. And by the way, there's no one solution that fits them all. And whoever sold you that vaporware from IBM or another professional service provider that wants to charge you $12 million a month to change your Fortune 50 organization, they don't know you.
yeah,
So, to all of my executives out there, you need to hire a Don or a me to help you understand what tech, where, and when. Thank
yeah.
you. If you like this content, like and subscribe. No, I'm kidding, but it just sounded very TED talking right there.
It was very
So
good. And, it's going to go on YouTube. So
it is,
like and
yeah.
subscribe.
Hit that bell
Yeah.
button to get more. So just take a quick pause because I love where this conversation is going. And thank you again so much. It's truly an honor to be amongst the storied leaders and thought leaders that you have had on the podcast. So it's just truly an honor. That being said, I have these Mateoisms, and I didn't know they were Mateoisms until I was told they were Mateoisms. So I'm at Cisco Systems, and someone said, "Dude, you need to write that down. That's great. Can I use that in a slide?" And then when I got to about 20 of these, someone handed them back to me and said, "These are my favorite Mateoisms." So one of them is, robots aren't coming for your jobs, they're coming for theirs. We must stop doing the work of robots. We did it in the auto industry in the 80s, and look what happened. The quality of the vehicles, the life of the vehicles. Hyundai still to this day, 30 years on, has a 100,000-mile warranty or whatever it is, some obnoxious 10-year. Think Toyota, because of automation. It didn't
Exactly.
destroy humanity, it enhanced humanity,
Yep.
right? It scaled what humans were doing and then took out the errors that humans were making from the auto manufacturing. So I'll give you a practical example. It's IT related because I am a nerd herder and I'm an HNIC, a head nerd in charge, usually, whether that ends up being a product owner or I'm guiding people through digital process engineering. Really, that's the function of this. So here's an example. You're an airline. You have 30-ish systems administrators. These people have been at your company 20 years, let's say 17 to 20 years. You're paying them in the low twos. And now you've got to start paying them comp time because they're still using spreadsheets for your 1,300 internal clients, okay, to manage when their customers on IT rails are getting replaced. Let me make that simpler, okay? Inside of a data center, we have a small number of buckets. It's power and cooling, it's compute, it's store, and it's network, okay? So you've got, go ahead.
Real estate.
Yeah, the real estate itself as well, of course.
Yeah.
But you're this airline, right? And
Yeah.
you've got these buckets that you need to manage across all of your internal clients, plus your regulatory organizations and everything else. And you are misusing your solutions or these systems administrators to do patching. So what we did was audit the number of customers they have and the process to make a request to how they need to do their patching.
Okay.
We analyzed the number of self-inflicted, and if you're familiar with service delivery or professional services, monitoring, maintenance, things like that, right? Self-inflicted incidents and self-inflicted security events, and how
Yeah.
much that cost this particular company. We then said, okay, how long does it take you to patch a Windows server, a Linux server? What do you have that's Mac? What editions are you running? What's your CAB process, your change advisory board process? You factor all of those things in. And then we created a digital solution a digital business solution in front of our digital employee solution on the back end.
Nice.
So you're able to connect the business need with the technical solution in 6 weeks, which is a normal patching cycle for them. They had a little over 190 hours of overtime, which to a salaried employee is comp time. So now it's the law of diminishing returns. You've got these guys that are up very, very late. They're making mistakes. They're missing things. And for each customer, for each piece of hardware, 56,000 physical and digital server devices, just compute alone, to be patched. That does include storage, that did include routers, switches, things like that. In 6 weeks, we automated 98.5% of that work without failure.
Nice.
Now, they fought us. The system manager fought us. The director of IT fought us because they thought they were going to be replaced. When in reality, now they're not losing all of that time commuting into the office, doing all of that work. Their quality of life went up, and now they're being paid for what they were supposed to be doing in the first place, being a systems administrator. Now they're managing 2 exceptions. Over time, the solution got tuned, and I think they went from 2,000 out of the 56,000 endpoints down to about 200 needing manual intervention. So every time there was an interruption, every time there was an exception or an aberrance, they would then go in and be like, if then this, then go do this thing. If then this, then go do this thing. Now, the important part is they're an airline, remember? And those security events, they have to explain to federal regulators. So when you're taking 3,000 to 5,000 security tickets out of the queue, now your security team can be focused on actual threats, not self-inflicted, and you have a lot less talking to do to federal regulators.
So I think that's a great example from many places of like, how do you take something that a human was doing and allow the robots to do the job that they were designed to do? And then
Exactly.
additionally, you know, and I've noticed this many times myself, was part of lots of change management projects. And there was always a line item in the justification that was headcount reduction. And the funniest
Always.
part about it was I don't think I have been on any project in which that headcount reduction ever came close to
We
meeting
lost
what.
we lost 2 guys.
Okay.
Out of the 30, we lost 2.
Yeah.
One won the lottery and quit. The other went to
Yeah.
another airline to do the same damn thing.
See, and that's the thing is like people,
Tripled his salary.
we did, I mean, bravo, right? Like,
Right?
absolutely. And that's upskilling in order to make sure that, like, hey, you can continue to add value in those places. But like you said, people have that fear up front that they're going to be replaced. So they end up
Because their
pushing
bosses, they
back.
overhear their bosses trying to say that. What
Yeah.
to those bosses, Don, to those bosses, to those mindsets, those are the ego driven, the pure profit driven. This is how I flip that conversation
Okay.
on them. I say, you haven't done the hard work to earn the profit. So you can fire me now and go hire someone who's going to tell you what you need to hear or want to hear, right? Or we're going to go and do the hard work. And not only am I going to give you profit, I'm going to give you efficiency. And that, when you are a public company, is far more valuable than 13
Absolutely.
cents on a stock price, because it
Yes.
gives you business resiliency and competitive nimbleness. So which
Exactly.
would you prefer? Would you prefer to outmaneuver your competitors and accelerate through the marketplace in a time when everybody's contracting, or do you want to go find a way to lay off 5,000 people?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that I'm hearing from you is that there's no matter how we're doing this, whether it's, new technology, whether we're talking LLMs, we're talking RPA, we're talking, expert
Yeah,
systems, right? Like
right. Expert systems is
there's,
definitely that domain. Yeah.
yeah, and um, there's always going to be a change management component to this and a digital transformation that comes along with it because we,
Right.
the humans, are still the ones making the decisions. And even if we're offloading some
Yes.
of the decision making capacity, we're still the ones who are making the investment and saying this is where we need to apply it. What are
Yeah.
some of the core principles that you're you're embodying around, seeing your projects become successful.
Or seeing projects not get funded because they
Yeah,
got too complex. And the
that's
clients
a good point.
realized, oh crap, we have 4 to 6 quarters of work to do before we do the adoption. So now the sales representatives or the executives on the job, right, are panicking because you're about to lose the contract. So what we do in those situations are, what is your greatest pain point and what do you need to show the most progress in the shortest period of time? Because change change management is too complex if you try to boil the ocean. That's the term, right? We want to do top-down change. Great, 5-year program is the minimum quote. And then they go, whoa. And then when you go to the big four, KPMG, Ernst and Young, Booz Allen Hamilton, if you're military, right? I think it's just Booz Hamilton now. If from wherever point you're starting here, right, you have your own chaos. But the C-suite, they need quicker wins.
Yes.
So how do we support the C-suite? Well, entrust us with either something that's completely on fire or totally unmanageable. Organize that. And it's going to be much smaller. Yeah, your initial budget is going to be much smaller, but you're going to earn your way by creating a center of excellence inside that organization. Call it an automation center of excellence, call it a transformation team, call it whatever you need. And now you've got these fractional executives that are out there masking as, I think we were calling them my role, implementations consultant. So I would start out in the sales cycle. I'd remove barriers to yes by identifying where these pain points were going to be with whatever characters are on the client side, and also reassuring them in the sales cycle that the tech stack that we're promoting or this particular solution is exactly what they need to line it up with the business problems. So that's where
Okay.
that disconnect happens, is if you can't connect a business problem to a solution, you can't show value or the reason to change to a frontline employee, like an engineer or something like that. Here's an example. Everyone in the news uh, who also put emotions onto things like the stock market. Well, the stock market was sad today. Immediately ignore those morons. But at the same time, they're the ones promoting AI is going to take everyone's jobs and nobody's going to know how to program anymore. Not true. Same example as the solutions architects or systems admins is going to be true for the programmers. AI is going to make sure before you get to promote your code that it works. And AI can scale us testing it on all of the devices. Let me tell you, I'm in a fist fight with Twitch right now. Do you want to know why I'm in a fist fight with Twitch right now? Because whoever their product owner is and whoever did mapped out all of the possible probabilities. So this is where product owners and project managers kind of need to fight and have a stronger voice. Okay. They didn't map out all of the possible probabilities. And then they handed off to their offshore programmer team who went and built exactly what they were told to build. Not one deviation, not one consideration for who's on the human on the other side, human user interaction. So now I can't give Twitch money because there's a back end problem with my profile. Twitch, I'm looking right at you, buddy. Like AI is going to help all of those use cases. Before you put something into production, it'll analyze the code, it'll scan for vulnerabilities, it'll do all of the things humans could do, but humans can also miss things. So there's a case where we can impact human users on the front end because we're using AI to check everything else out on the back end.
Awesome. All right, Mateo. So the question I have is like, we're using, AI can definitely do those things or will be doing those things around generating the code and finding the
Yes.
gaps in requirements. And we're
Mm-hmm.
seeing starts of that today. But
Correct.
where we're also using it is the after the fact and having it
Correct.
process logs, look through and identify issues that may not get reported by the user, may look
Yes.
like kind of, the user took a path that nobody has ever taken in the application before. Is this
Right.
true or however? So, um, amazing both from the aspect of before production, but also that after production state. I think we're going to see a lot of benefits.
We've been using AI to enhance humans' lives for decades. And the way we think about AI now, algorithmically, machine learning, that kind of AI, or AI adjacent type activities, go get this information, correlate that information when it's done to this other data set. Now, there's a fundamental problem with all of AI, and it has to do with standardization around NLP libraries. And I can describe that very, very quickly. And a good friend of mine and his partner have had this problem licked for a long time. But now that we have blockchain, we have a way to start accelerating that.
Nice.
So a friend of mine, Dave DeHilster, just taught the first of what will likely be very powerful courses for Northeastern in an adjunct campus in Miami for natural language processing, NLP. So I urge you to to Google the problem with NLP, and you'll get plenty of articles, leaders, and other nerd herders to understand why that is important to your LLMs and why a lot of things are starting to fail. In a more generic sense, natural language processing is the cognitive part of what we have in AI right now. It's what's reading what your prompts are and then considering that information and the prompts in as best context as it possibly can, and then go acting on the verbs that you give it. Okay. So here's an example. I challenge you to ask Siri to give you the average price in your home across the last 12 years. And it'll say, I can't display that information because what we're asking it to do is not a simple search. We're asking, or find a web page, which is what it's programmed to do. We're asking it to go get information, organize that information in the context at which that information was requested, and then present the answer back after it does the calculus on that information.
Yes.
And to do that, it needs a dictionary. And that's where natural language NLP Cloud, which was first launched in the early aughts, like 2002, 2003, came in by Dave DeHilster and his partner. Now they have NLP++. So now we have a library to standardize NLP, because we're kind of, everybody that's coming out with whatever their large language model is, they're literally making up their own models.
Yep.
Fail. That's like saying, we're not going to use Webster's dictionary ever again. We're going to write our own. We're not going to use the ISO existing things for how all of the international standards organizations label country codes. So they're having to, I as a programmer, every time, or as a solutions architect, every time I need to go make a SaaS platform, I have to import all of these libraries. I have to create these reference libraries. These are how I want the dates to be. This is what a date is. This is what these things mean. Here's what a region code is, right? And then I have to go through and clean all of that data up. AI is doing a really good job at helping us clean and remember I said it was organize, right? Scale or automate. So that is really what we're seeing now is the biggest problem. So we're trying to solve that problem we're going to eventually build a blockchain so that things can be in a community sense as a species. We can say this means this in this context.
Okay.
That's going to be huge for helping accelerate AI and bring better standards and better cognitive capabilities to AI.
Mateo, I got to say, it's been an absolute blast having you on the show. And like, that is a deep piece of insight that I'd like to close on. But got to ask you if there's anything else that you would recommend to anybody who's, looking to engage with you or looking to, bring their best foot forward in this coming age of AI acceleration.
Yeah, I want you to ignore all of the ads you're seeing for targeted ads you're seeing in your feeds right now that say, learn these 50 tools, learn these 25 tools, and you're going to go make $100,000. Just ignore that. Here's why. They're all the same 5 or 6 tools, and they're only solving 1 or 2 problems. Before you look for a tool, define the problem you're trying to solve as simply as possible. The tools are out there. Now, here's the pitch, because I went and got a business degree because I already could do the tech. So So here's my pitch. Hire a me, hire a Don. The more complex the problem becomes, or the greater the urgency you need to solve something that's complex, or these adoptions, you need someone that's going to come in and champion for you, give you the strategic bullet points that you need on the top end, the tactical things that your E and your V and D suite need to execute on, and consider the end user and everything we do
Yeah.
for you and teach you how to do that so you can have a successful transition. Hire a product owner, hire a digital process engineer. That's my highest recommendation, especially to the executives, who challenged me to get out of the engineering space and embrace the mantle of leadership and suffer through startup after startup after startup as both a solutions architect or fractional CTO, so that I could learn and master how business happens. I got an MBA boot camp, basically.
Yeah.
I now need you guys to get comfortable with being uncomfortable in your Fortune 100s or Fortune 1000s and start finding those value metrics by identifying your processes and your problems.
Nice. Absolutely great place to end this. And once again, my friend, thank you so much for being here with us and sharing yourself today.
No, thank you for the opportunity to be here, and all of your previous podcasts. Like, there's not a bad one in the bunch. There's just so much learning there. It's like drinking from a fire hose. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for putting this kind of content out here and having these kind of thought leaders here and present. It really does help us and help keep things human focused.
Awesome. Thank you again.